Welcome back to Haven Humble. I'm thrilled to have you join us for our second episode.
Last time, we introduced the book and its author. Today, we're diving into the first 3 chapters of To Kill a Mockingbird.
That's right. We're finally meeting Scout, Jem, Atticus, and the town of Maycomb. What struck you most about the opening of the book?
I love how Harper Lee starts with Jem's broken arm. It's like opening a mystery. We know something big happened, but we don't know what yet. Scout tells us that she thinks it started with the Yules, but Jem thinks it began when Dill arrived and they became interested in Boo Radley.
Yes. And Scout even jokes that maybe it all started with Andrew Jackson driving the Creek Indians away, which allowed their ancestor Simon Finch to settle in Alabama. It's a clever way to introduce the family history.
Exactly. And speaking of family history, we learn that the Finches have deep roots in Maycomb. Atticus is a lawyer, and he lives with Scout, Jem, and their housekeeper Calpurnia. Their mother passed away when Scout was very young.
I think it's important to note that Scout is only about 6 years old when the main story begins. She's looking back and telling this story as an adult, but we experience everything through her childhood eyes.
That's what makes the storytelling so special. We see this small southern town through a child's perspective. Honest, sometimes confused, but always observant.
Let's talk about Maycomb itself. How would you describe this town to our listeners?
Maycomb is a sleepy old town in Alabama. It's the 1930s during the Great Depression, and Scout describes it as a tired, slow-moving place where nothing much happens. People move slowly in the heat. There's not much money around, and everyone knows everyone else's business.
And social status is really important, right? Scout mentions the different ranks of families.
Absolutely. There's a clear social hierarchy. The Finches are respected, educated people. Then there are families like the Cunninghams, poor but proud farmers who never take anything they can't pay back. At the bottom are the Ewells, who Scout describes as living behind the town garbage dump, and then the black community, who face terrible discrimination.
One of the most interesting characters we meet in these early chapters is Dill. Who is he?
Dill is such a delightful character. He's a small, curious boy who comes to stay with his aunt next door during summers. He's imaginative and becomes fast friends with Scout and Jem. And he's actually based on Harper Lee's real childhood friend, Truman Capote, who later became a famous writer himself.
And it's Dill who gets fascinated with the Radley house and Boo Radley, right?
Yes. The Radley house is this dark, mysterious place in the neighborhood that the children are afraid of. Boo Radley hasn't been seen outside for years, and the children have created all sorts of scary stories about him.
The local gossip says he stabbed his father with scissors and that he wanders around at night looking in people's windows.
Children's imaginations run wild. But what's interesting is how the adults have also created this monster out of Boo. It shows how rumors and fear can turn a person into something they're not.
In Chapter 2, Scout starts school for the first time. And it doesn't go very well, does it?
Not at all. Poor Scout is so excited to start school, but her teacher, Miss Caroline, gets upset that Scout already knows how to read. Instead of being happy about it, she tells Scout to stop reading at home, saying Atticus is teaching her wrong.
It's such a frustrating moment for Scout. She's being punished for being advanced.
And it shows how rigid the education system can be. Miss Caroline has her methods and can't adapt to a child who doesn't fit the mold. It's also our first glimpse of Scout's strong personality. She's not afraid to speak her mind.
Chapter 3 gives us a beautiful moment between Scout and Atticus. Can you tell our listeners about that?
This is one of my favorite parts. After a rough first day at school, Scout wants to quit, but Atticus gives her this wonderful advice about understanding other people. You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it.
That's such an important lesson about empathy, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's one of the central themes of the book. Atticus is teaching Scout to look beyond her own perspective and try to understand why people act the way they do. He explains why Miss Caroline was confused and why Walter Cunningham wouldn't take her money for lunch.
Speaking of Walter Cunningham, there's that lunch scene where Scout gets in trouble again.
Yes. Scout invites Walter home for lunch, and when he pours syrup all over his food, she criticizes him. Calpurnia pulls her aside and scolds her, teaching her about respecting guests and not making people feel bad for being different.
So in these first 3 chapters, we're really seeing Scout learn some important life lessons about respect and understanding others.
Exactly. And we're also getting our first hints about the bigger themes of the book. How people judge others based on appearance or rumors, the social divisions in Maycomb, and how children see the world differently than adults do.
Before we wrap up, is there anything else important from these chapters that our listeners should pay attention to?
I think it's worth noting how Harper Lee sets up the character of Atticus. He's not your typical hero. He's older than other parents, he wears glasses, and he reads books instead of hunting or fishing. But we already see his wisdom and moral strength shining through.
That's a great point. Atticus doesn't fit the stereotype of a strong Southern man, but he has a different kind of strength that will become very important later in the story.
And one last thing, pay attention to how the children view Boo Radley now, because their perspective will change as they grow and learn.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode. Next time, we'll be looking at chapters 4 through 6, where Scout, Jem, and Dill's fascination with Boo Radley leads to some daring adventures and mysterious gifts.
Yes. We'll discover what happens when the children try to send a note to Boo, and we'll talk about the first signs that Boo might not be the monster everyone thinks he is. It's where the mystery really starts to unfold. Thank you for joining us for this episode. If you're reading along with us, get ready for chapters 4 through 6 for our next discussion.
And remember Atticus's advice. Try to see things from other people's perspectives. It's good advice for reading this book and for life in general.
See you next time.